Rain lashed against the old timber, lightning illuminated a sign, Ravenwood Inn. Sarah, a lone traveller, gripped the steering wheel. She was exhausted. The mountain road seemed endless. Finally, she pulled into the inn's overgrown driveway. The inn loomed large and imposing. Its windows were dark eyes. The storm seemed to intensify around it.
As Sarah approached the entrance, the heavy oak door creaked open.
A stooped figure stood in the doorway.
Welcome to Ravenwood Inn, miss.
"Sarah!" she said, stepping into the dimly lit foyer. "Sarah Evans!"
Miss Evans, the old man rasped, his voice like dry leaves. I'm Mr. Jenkins. Your room awaits.
His smile didn't reach his eyes. Sarah's room was on the third floor, room 314. The number seemed innocuous, but there was something about it that made her uneasy. She hesitated for a moment before inserting the key and pushing the door open. The air was heavy, with the scent of mildew and something else, something ancient. It was as if the room had been sealed for centuries, preserving the secrets of its past occupants. The wallpaper peeled at the seams, revealing faded floral patterns. These patterns, once vibrant, now seemed like ghostly remnants of a bygone era, whispering tales of those who had once lived within these walls. She unpacked her bag, a growing unease settling in her stomach. Each item she placed on the dresser felt like an intrusion into a space that wasn't hers. The room seemed to watch her every move.
Exploring the inn, she discovered dusty hallways lined with portraits of long-dead stairs. The eyes in the portraits seemed to follow her, their expressions frozen in time, yet eerily lifelike. A grand piano sat in the corner of the lobby, its keys coated in dust. She wondered when it was last played, imagining the haunting melodies that might have once filled the air. The air hummed with a strange energy, whispers that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. It was as if the building was alive, breathing and speaking in hushed tones.
The basement, accessed by a rickety staircase, was a cavern of shadows and dampness. Each step creaked under her weight, echoing through the dark, empty space below. Cobwebs clung to everything. The air was thick and cold. It felt like stepping into another world, one where time had stopped and the past lingered in every corner. Sarah felt a prickling sensation on the back of her neck, a feeling of being watched. She turned quickly, but there was nothing there, only the oppressive darkness. The attic, reached by a narrow, creaking ladder, was a treasure trove of forgotten things. Each step up the ladder felt like a journey into the unknown. The creaks echoing like warnings. Trunks overflowed with antique clothing, their fabrics moth-eaten and fragile. These garments, once worn by people long gone, now lay in silent testimony to the passage of time. Dolls with vacant eyes stared from a dusty shelf. Their expressions were frozen in eerie smiles, as if they knew secrets they would never share.
And there in the corner was a full-length mirror, its surface clouded with age. The mirror seemed to hold memories of all who had gazed into it, their reflections trapped in its glass. As Sarah looked into it, she could have sworn she saw a figure standing behind her, a fleeting shadow that vanished as quickly as it appeared. Her heart raced and she spun around, but the room was empty. The mirror, however, seemed to hold on to the shadow as if it had a life of its own.
The apparitions began that night, shrouded in an eerie mist that seemed to seep through the very walls of Ravenwood. A young girl in a tattered yellow dress, her face pale and drawn, peeked from around the corner at the end of the hallway. Her eyes, wide with fear, seemed to plead for help, yet she remained silent.
She vanished when Sarah called out to her, dissolving into the air as if she had never been there at all.
An older man, dressed in a doctor's coat, his face obscured by shadow, seemed to materialize from the wall in Sarah's room. His presence was both unsettling and sorrowful, as if he carried the weight of countless untold stories. His eyes glowed with an eerie light, piercing through the darkness with an intensity that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. He reached out a hand, his touch icy cold, before fading into the darkness. The chill lingered in the air long after he had disappeared.
And then there was the Shadow Man, a figure of pure darkness that seemed to absorb all light around him.
Tall and imposing, he seemed to be made of darkness itself. His form was indistinct, shifting and changing as he moved. He moved silently through the halls, his presence heralded by a sudden drop in temperature. The air would grow cold, and a mist would form, as if the very breath of winter had entered the room. Sarah would catch glimpses of him at the edge of her vision, always watching, always lurking. His presence was a constant reminder that she was never truly alone in Ravenwood. Hidden beneath a loose floorboard in her room, Sarah discovered a leather-bound journal. Its pages were filled with the frantic scribblings of a man named Elias Jenkins, the inn's original owner. The entries spoke of a darkness that had fallen upon Ravenwood.
Elias described the inn's construction. It was built upon an ancient burial ground, a place of power and sorrow. He wrote of disturbing occurrences, strange illnesses that befell his family, and accidents that claimed the lives of his guests.
As Sarah read, she began to understand. The ghosts were not random apparitions. They were the spirits of those who had died at Ravenwood, trapped within its walls. Section 5. The Pact. Elias's journal revealed a horrifying truth. Desperate to save his family and his beloved inn, Elias had made a pact with a malevolent entity. In exchange for prosperity and longevity, Elias had promised the entity something far more precious: souls. The entity, Elias wrote, fed on the life force of the living. The inn, built on sacred ground, served as a conduit, drawing in unsuspecting travelers, trapping their souls within its walls. The girl in the yellow dress was Emily, a guest who had fallen ill and died under mysterious circumstances. The doctor, a man named Silas, had been driven mad by the whispers in the walls, eventually taking his own life. The Shadow Man, the journal hinted, was a manifestation of the entity itself.
Panic surged through Sarah. She had to escape Ravenwood. She had to break the cycle. But the storm raged outside, the wind howling like a banshee. The power flickered and died, plunging the inn into darkness. Sarah stumbled through the hallways, the floorboards creaking beneath her feet. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper. She could feel the entity's presence, closing in around her. She reached the front door, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if an unseen hand held it shut. The temperature plummeted. The air crackled with energy. Something was coming for her. She whirled around to face her pursuer.
The Shadow Man stood before her, his form shifting, his eyes burning with a cold, malevolent light. He reached for her, his touch promising oblivion.
Suddenly, a blinding flash of lightning illuminated the foyer. A deafening clap of thunder shook the inn to its core. And then, just as quickly as it had appeared, the entity vanished. The front door swung open as if released from an unseen grip. Rain lashed into the foyer. Sarah didn't hesitate. She ran out into the storm, the screams of the trapped souls echoing in her ears. The storm subsided by morning, leaving behind a world washed clean, yet eerily silent. The sun rose over the Appalachian Mountains, casting a golden glow on the rain-soaked landscape, illuminating the droplets clinging to leaves and branches. But Ravenwood Inn stood silent, its windows dark, its secrets buried deep within its walls. The once grand structure now loomed like a ghost, a shadow of its former self. Local authorities found no trace of Sarah Evans. Despite extensive searches and countless hours spent combing the area, she seemed to have vanished without a trace. Her car remained parked in the overgrown driveway, a silent witness to her mysterious disappearance, slowly being reclaimed by nature. her belongings untouched in room 314, as if she had just stepped out for a moment and would return any second. The inn, deemed unsafe, was condemned and left to the elements. Its walls, once filled with laughter and life, now crumbled under the weight of time and neglect. Years have passed, but Ravenwood Inn still stands, a decaying monument to darkness and despair. Its eerie presence a constant reminder of the unsolved mystery. Locals whisper tales of the young woman who disappeared, her story becoming a part of the town's folklore, a chilling tale told around campfires and in hushed tones. Her fate forever intertwined with the inn's sinister legacy, a dark chapter in its already haunted history. And some say, on stormy nights, if you listen closely, you can hear the wind whispering through the trees, carrying the voices of the past. You can still hear the whispers of the trapped souls, crying out from within the walls of Ravenwood Inn, their voices a haunting reminder of the inn's dark past.